6. The Yellowstone supervolcano. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the entire United States. It attracts millions of visitors each and every year who come to enjoy its natural beauty and diverse wildlife. But beneath the park's surface, there's a hidden danger that could pose a serious threat to the planet: a supervolcano. A supervolcano is a large volcanic system with the potential to produce eruptions hundreds or thousands of times more powerful than typical volcanoes. These eruptions have devastating effects on the environment, triggering global cooling, acid rain, crop failures, mass extinction, and social collapse. The Yellowstone supervolcano is one of the largest and most active in the world. It had 3 major eruptions in 2.1 million years, the last one being 640,000 years ago. These eruptions were global disasters that spewed black ash and gas into the air, blocking out the sun and changing the climate. The most recent eruption formed the Yellowstone caldera, a large depression in the ground measuring about 28 by 46 miles. The Yellowstone supervolcano is dormant, meaning that it's mostly quiet and unlikely to erupt soon. But it isn't dead, and it could wake up at any time. Scientists monitor the volcano's activity by measuring seismic activity, gas emissions, and hydrothermal features. These indicators provide clues about the magma chamber under the volcano, which is the main source of its explosive power. One of the most fascinating and puzzling indicators of the Yellowstone supervolcano's activity is the presence of helium-4 gas. Helium-4 is a rare gas that's produced by the radioactive decay of uranium and thorium inside the Earth's crust. It accumulates in magma chambers and escapes to the surface through small cracks. In 2014, scientists reported that they found large traces of helium-4 gas being released from Yellowstone. They estimated the gas had been trapped in the rocks for nearly 2 billion years and was released by a recent uplift of the crust. The amount of helium-4 gas was about 60 tons per year. The presence of helium-4 in Yellowstone doesn't necessarily indicate an imminent eruption. It's just one of many factors scientists consider when assessing the volcano's status. But it does show that there's a lot of heat stored in the crust and that the volcano's active. The question remains, what would happen if the sleeping giant suddenly awakened? What would be the consequences of a massive Yellowstone eruption? The answer is not certain, but it is likely to be catastrophic. According to simulations, a large-scale eruption could eject about 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash and debris into the atmosphere, covering most of North America with a layer of ash. The ash would block out sunlight, reduce overall temperatures, damage buildings, and affect human health. The eruption could also release toxic gases like sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, which could result in acid rain and global warming. The effects of a Yellowstone eruption would not be limited to just North America either. The ash could spread around the world, carried by wind currents and affecting other continents. The global climate could change for years or decades, causing droughts, famines, diseases, migrations, and social unrest. Of course, these scenarios are based on assumptions that may not reflect reality. There are many variables involved in predicting volcanic eruptions and their possible impacts. It's possible that a Yellowstone eruption could be smaller or larger than expected, or that it could happen sooner or later than expected. The bottom line is that we don't know for sure when or how the Yellowstone supervolcano will erupt. We can only monitor it and prepare for possible consequences. Yellowstone is a sleeping giant that could awaken at any time. 5. Toba, the supervolcano that almost ended humanity. Toba is a supervolcano on the Indonesian island of Sumatra. It's one of the largest and most dangerous volcanoes in the entire world, capable of producing eruptions that are hundreds or even thousands of times more powerful than typical volcanoes. About 74,000 years ago, Toba had a colossal eruption that researchers have claimed was the largest volcanic event in the last 2 million years. It ejected about 2,800 cubic kilometers of magma and ash into the air, creating a massive plume that covered most of Asia and Africa. The cloud blocked out sunlight, reduced temperatures, and altered rainfall patterns for years. This caused a global cooling period called a volcanic winter, which lasted for nearly a decade. The The Toba eruption had a devastating impact on the Earth's environment. It destroyed vast areas of vegetation and wildlife, triggering widespread famines and diseases. It also affected the evolution and survival of humans, who were still in their early stages of development. According to a few theories, the eruption of Toba caused a genetic bottleneck in the population, meaning that it reduced the genetic diversity of humans and number of individuals. Some estimates suggest that the human population may have dropped to as low as 3,000 to 10,000 people worldwide. This would explain why humans today are so genetically similar to each other compared to other creatures. But not all scientists agree on the extent and consequences the Toba eruption had. Some argue the eruption was not as large or catastrophic as previously thought, and that it didn't have a significant effect on the climate or human evolution. They point out that there's evidence of human activity and cultural diversity in Africa and Asia that took place after the eruption, indicating that humans were able to adapt, overcome, and survive. The debate over the Toba eruption is ongoing, and more research is needed to resolve it. But one thing is certain. Toba is a sleeping giant that could awaken again one day. It's estimated that Toba erupts every 400,000 to 600,000 years, which means that it's long overdue for another eruption. If it does erupt again, it could pose a serious threat to humanity and life as we know it. 4. The Long Valley Caldera. The Long Valley Caldera is a huge volcanic depression located in eastern California, near the state's border with Nevada. It was formed by a massive eruption that took place about 760,000 years ago that released over 600 cubic kilometers of magma and ash into the atmosphere. This eruption was one of the largest in Earth's history and had a major global impact on the climate and environment. The eruption also left behind a large crater that's about 19 miles long, 11 miles wide, and up to 2,952 feet deep. The crater is surrounded on three sides by mountains. The eastern side is lower and open to the Owens River Valley. The Long Valley Caldera is still an active volcanic system with a large magma chamber under the surface. The chamber causes the ground to rise and fall over time, creating a dome-like shape in the middle of the caldera. This feature is known as the resurgent dome, and it's been uplifted by about 984 feet since the caldera forming eruption. The dome also has many hot springs and fumaroles, which are vents that release steam and gas. The geothermal features that are used to generate electricity at the Casa Diablo power plant, which provides power for over 40,000 homes. The caldera has also experienced many smaller eruptions since its formative event. The most recent ones happened about 100,000 years ago along the ring fault of the caldera, forming volcanic cones and flows of lava. The caldera is also adjacent to other volcanic areas, like Mammoth Mountain and Mono Inyo craters, which are separate from the Long Valley magmatic system. These volcanoes erupted more recently, with the last eruption going down about 300 years ago in Mono Lake. The Long Valley Caldera is monitored regularly by the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, which uses various instruments to measure earthquakes, ground deformation, and gas emissions. The USGS also provides warnings to the public about the potential hazards of volcanic activity in the area. The Long Valley Caldera is considered to be one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the whole of the United States, since it could produce another super eruption in the near future that would have devastating consequences for millions of people. What's the closest volcano to you? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. 3. Campi Flegrei. Campi Flegrei is a region full of several supervolcanic calderas that's located to the west of Naples, Italy. The name means burning fields or fiery fields in Greek and Italian. Campi Flegrei consists of 24 craters and volcanic edifices, most of which are underwater. The region's also well known for its hydrothermal activity, with hot springs, fumaroles, and mud pools. The most famous of these is the Solfatara crater, which is believed to be the home of Vulcan, the Romans' god of fire. Campi has a complex history of volcanic eruptions dating back 39,000 years ago, when it produced the largest eruption in Europe over the last 200,000 years. This eruption, the Campanian Ignimbrite eruption, expelled about 200 cubic kilometers of magma and ash. Some scientists have suggested this eruption may have contributed to the extinction of Neanderthals and the rise of modern humans. The most recent eruption of Campi happened in 1538, when the ground below the region rose by 65 feet before bursting into an explosion. This eruption created a new mountain, Monte Nuovo, and buried a nearby village under lava. The eruption lasted 8 days and was witnessed by many people, including the famous Italian poet Torquato Tasso. Today, Campi is a regional park that attracts visitors for its natural beauty and cultural heritage. The area is rich in archaeological sites, like the ancient Roman city of Baia, the Temple of Serapis in Pozzuoli, and the Flavian Amphitheatre. Campi is also considered a supervolcano that could pose a serious threat to millions of people nearby. The region's been experiencing episodes of unrest since the mid-20th century. Scientists are monitoring the volcano closely to understand its behavior and predict future eruptions. 2. Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is Japan's most famous and tallest mountain, with a height of 12,388 feet. It's located on the island of Honshu, 60 miles west of Tokyo. It's an active volcano belonging to the Pacific Ring of Fire, a zone of frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Mount Fuji has not erupted since 1707 though, but is still heavily monitored by scientists for any signs of activity. Mount Fuji is a symbol of Japan's culture, history, and religions. It's been regarded as a sacred mountain since ancient times, and many shrines and temples are built around its base. It's also a popular destination for tourists and pilgrims who climb to the summit to see the sunrise and pray. Mount Fuji is open for climbing from July to September, and over 300,000 people visit every year. Mount Fuji is also a source of inspiration for artists and writers. It's been depicted in countless paintings, prints, poems, novels, and films. One of the most famous representations of it is the series of woodblock prints called 36 Views of Mount Fuji by Hokusai, which were made during the early 19th century. These prints show the mountain from different angles and seasons, highlighting its beauty. Mount Fuji is a natural wonder that's captivated the hearts and minds of people for centuries. It's a national treasure that represents Japan's identity and spirit. It's also a World Heritage Site that deserves respect and protection. Mount Fuji is more than just a mountain. It's a living legend. 1. Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl is a majestic volcano that rises high above the Mexican plateau. Its name translates to smoking mountain in the Nahuatl language of the Aztecs, who considered it a sacred source of life. Popocatépetl is the second highest peak in Mexico, right after Pico de Orizaba, and the fifth largest in all of North America, with an elevation of 17,802 feet. It's also one of the most active volcanoes in the world, having erupted over 15 times since the Spanish conquest in 1519. Popocatépetl is part of the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt, a chain of volcanoes that stretches from the Pacific coast to the Gulf of Mexico. It's located on the border of the states of Puebla, Morelos, and Mexico, about 45 miles southeast of Mexico City. It's linked to its twin volcano Iztaccíhuatl by a high saddle called the Paso de Cortés. The two volcanoes form the core of the Iztaccíhuatl-Popocatépetl National Park, which covers an area of nearly 63,470 acres and protects a rich biodiversity of flora and fauna. Popocatépetl has a symmetrical cone shape that's covered by snow and ice. It has a large crater measuring about 2,600 feet in diameter and 1,000 feet in depth. The crater holds a lava dome that's constantly growing and collapsing due to volcanic activity. Popocatépetl emits steam, gas, ash, and sometimes even lava in its eruptions, which pose a threat to nearby populations and the environment. The most recent eruptive period started in 2005 and continues to this day. Popocatépetl is not only a natural wonder, but also a shining cultural symbol. It's inspired many legends, myths, and artistic expressions throughout history. One of the most famous stories is that of Popocatépetl and Ixtlaatl, two lovers who were turned into volcanoes by the gods. Popocatépetl is said to watch over his beloved Ixtlaatl, who lies asleep as a dormant volcano. Popocatépetl is also a source of pride and identity for Mexican people, who admire its beauty and power. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you learned something new and interesting about volcanic eruptions that could potentially change the course of history. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content. And don't forget to share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.